All right, YouTube, how's it going, guys? How's it going? I'm very excited to finally get to do this video. It's been definitely a couple of weeks in the making. Set champs. We only got one more week left of set champs for Archazia'S Island now. It's crazy how fast it's all flown by. But first 3 weeks have went by pretty well, I suppose. Could have been better for some of us, but I guess we'll get all into that here in just a little bit. So. The purpose of today's video, or this particular video, is going to be giving you guys the Blurple deck list I was able to get second place with yesterday at one of the set championships. I think there was about 20 to 25 people in it. I could pull up the melee for it, but nevertheless, it was 5 rounds cut to top 8. We played out top 8 elimination style and ended up getting to take home second place. Unfortunately, was not able to secure that championship spot. But it was a great time overall, and I got to play a deck that I actually hadn't messed with at all prior, and it's actually a pretty new, I guess, some new innovations on an old favorite, if you will, for some people. So with that being said, guys, we actually got a lot of set championship reports coming overall here just in the next couple of days. Keith and Troy were both able to take home 2 first places out of the ones that we went to. So we've been able to try and go to 1 every single Saturday and Sunday for the past 3 weeks now. So I only got to make it to 3 of them. I think that Troy and Keith got to make it to like maybe 4 or 5 if I'm not mistaken. So nevertheless, we tried to just spread it out a little bit and try to take home as many tops and as many championships as we can in this month. But it's been a good run so far. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump into this Blurple list for you guys. And these are the 2 Hyro promo cards. I'll definitely make sure to get some better close-ups of those for you guys. These are just 2 that I've been able to secure so far. We do still have 1 more weekend, so we'll see if maybe I can end up getting a 3rd or maybe even a play set. And I still definitely want to try and get one of those mats if we can, by all means. But let's get into this list, guys. Got some nice sauce for you. All right, guys. So, just showcasing for the 2 promos. I know you guys have already seen a ton of those, I'm sure, so far. Nothing too crazy there, so go ahead and shoot those over to the side. But the real specialty today is going to be this Blurple list. Just for some insight, you know, I haven't really been the biggest fan of Blurple in the past. I always felt like it didn't really have the removal that it's so needed. Don't get me wrong, the purple cards do some little tricks in terms of, you know, challenges and whatnot, and Hades is a cool card, but I really felt like the deck was always lacking in having some true removal options, so I always kind of shied away from the deck. But there was one particular guy who was playing this deck, and I'm going to make sure to get his name and information for you guys, and I'll get that posted down in the description. Give him his credit where credit is due. He's at least the first person I saw playing it. It was round 3 or round 4 of the last Southside Gaming Merlin 10K, and he was playing at Zan, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a local down there, to my understanding, and one of the commentators, who's as well a local from that area, said, you know, he's well known for playing Blurple down there, but sometimes does some kind of different or unique ideas, if you will. And so, as I'm watching him play, he did some really interesting lines with Jafar. It was a Jafar Blurple deck, and he was getting clowned a little bit for it, but he was actually doing some really good things. And so this is the Jafar that I'm referring to. If you're not familiar with it, I'll just briefly say it's a shift 5, 4/5, comes with evasive as a keyword, so very important, especially in this current meta game. And then additionally, it has sort of a Maui half shark effect, if you will, where it's during your turn while this character is exerted. Whenever you draw a card, you can gain 1 lore. So it's sort of a combo-oriented piece to a deck that, you know, was really just a tempo deck initially. And with that being said, we'll kind of dive into the list here a little bit. I didn't copy. I don't even know if his list got published anywhere. I don't know if he ended up topping. I just really liked his variation of the deck, and I think that I had a very general understanding of what I'm sure he was playing, and so I just kind of put my own spin on it with some things that I thought I would like, and this is what I kind of ended up with, guys. So best part about all of this, or I'll kind of dive in here first, and we'll keep talking, but to start us out, we went 4 Popsicle, 4 Bell, 4 Friends, all right? I'm laying out these 12 cards first because I just love this sequence right here. The ability to be able to go turn 1 Popsicle, banish for the Bell, turn 2, draw 2 fresh cards. That is incredible cycling power. You went through 3 cards and were able to put out a 3/3 on turn 2 before you even spent your turn 2 ink, right? Or before you even had to ink a card realistically on turn 2. Now, with this Jafar build, you are a little bit more item oriented, and one item that has been found, or that I saw this individual playing at the Southside Gaming Tournament, and it works incredibly well with the deck. Maybe have been played in other variations in the past, but it's Croquet Mallet. All right, so if you're not familiar with what Croquet Mallet does, it just says banish this item. It's a 1 cost unequal. Banish this item. Chosen character gains rush this turn. All right. So this really becomes sort of it's a brand new removal tool for the deck in a sense. You're not only having to worry about your, Foxes having rush or your Elsa having rush. Now you have everything has access to rush for relatively cheap as well. So this card right here, phenomenal MVP card for the weekend, or definitely in the top 3 conversation for MVP cards. First time ever getting to really, interact with this card as a whole, and it was genuinely one of my favorite cards I've gotten to play. Given the ability to give anything rush, or just set this up in an earlier turn, and then as the game develops, you always carry this threat that you can just at any point in time drop a creature or drop a character that can compete with anything your opponent plays. So very, very interesting there. Now, moving on, this is where the deck switches up a little bit, and I start to take a little bit of my own spin, possibly, or at least I think. So there is, to my understanding, I'm not sure what all 1-drops he was playing. Like I said, once I did not double check his list. This was a super last minute decision on my part. I didn't end up getting to play Saturday at a set champ event just due to some work and some other things. So I ended up going to one on Sunday, and last minute I just decided to kind of slap this deck together. I wanted to have fun. I had gotten 9th at my first set champ that I went to, and I played Blue Steel at that one, and then I got top 8 at the second one that I went to, but there wasn't a lot of people there. I played Blue Steel at that one as well, and I'll make sure to get you guys that list. But nevertheless, I wasn't feeling awesome about Blue Steel. The meta was kind of all over the place for our Middle Tennessee region, so I just wanted to play something fun, guys, and with that, we ended up on the Jafar Blurple. And in this deck, I decided to give myself some variety here. I wanted to have as many tools as possible. I knew I was going to be drawing a lot of cards, and I wanted a good, solid early game, which I think Blurple has kind of started to stray away from here recently. And there's nothing wrong with that. To each their own, and to everybody to test whatever they would like to. But for me personally, these 1-drops, I've always loved them. I feel like they interact really well with the rest of the deck. And of course, the Broom and Chernobog being able to interact with your Jafar as well. They felt like they were almost mandatory. And I wasn't going to leave Diablo out. So that's why there's a little bit of an odd count here. So 8 1-drops total, in addition to the 4 Popsicles. So you're looking at 12 inkable 1-drops, plus the 2 Croquet Mallets. So now for your 2-drop package, looking at the Kid, and the Kid needs a boat. So for this particular idea, the deck is, or for this particular deck, it is extremely, extremely tight. All right, this deck is very. And it's very possible that, maybe I shouldn't have been playing all these 1-drops, or maybe I shouldn't have been playing this, that, or the third. But for what it's worth, I was just trying to balance out the deck at the 1, 2, 3, 4 slot as much as possible, just to give myself a smooth as possible curve. And I decided to go with this particular ratio because Sail is a card that I really only want to play in a scenario when I'm going first, or in a the other scenario I found later while I was playing is that, you know, it's actually okay if you're going second and you have a follow-up 1-drop to play with your free ink. Because these cards are going to replace themselves, so it's not like you're losing advantage or anything. It's actually something you want to be developing. But initially, Tipo was the card that I wanted to play. Tipo was the card that I felt like was a true threat, and it actually synergized with what I wanted to do with the deck very well. And so moving forward with what I kind of wanted to do with the deck, I guess I'll jump into these 4-drops real quick, because the whole point of playing all of this is to realistically never have to play turn 3, right? And we never want to play turn 3 because we're playing some of the best 4-drops in the game. Starting out, Genie, of course, that's just a given. I'm only playing 2 Jafar. Now, this card surprised me. I actually couldn't find another before the tournament, so that's why I was only playing 2. But this card was actually incredible. For those of you who don't know, 4 mana, inkable, quest for 2, right? 0/5 on the stat sheet, and effect of Hidden Wonders. This character gets +1 attack for each card in your hand. Now, this is incredibly underestimated, right? This card almost always sits as a 5/5 or a 4/5, and sometimes can even be higher than that. And you have so much ability to be able to manipulate your hand size in this deck. Like, this card, just even as a quest for 2 as a 5 or quest for 2 as a 5 body, is incredible in its own. So I never had played with this card a whole lot before. I've played Jafar Whole New World, Purple Steel, but I just never really dug into this a lot. And with that Jafar and Genie, of course, come kind of the heart and soul of the deck, which is the Lamp. Now, the Lamp is something that has recently been getting more popularized in some of the newer Jafar Purple Steel list. But I saw this individual playing this card in the Blurple list, and it really took me by surprise, because you don't have a lot of targets necessarily for the Jafar or for the Genie, so it really kind of made me sit back and think, wow, you know, this card's probably more so just a brick. But after playing it through the weekend, guys, this card is genuinely incredible. I don't know that I would bump it up to 4 just yet. I did find myself kind of being in some bricky situations with this card, but it does the job. It does exactly what you want it to do, and it's something that you can even just set up earlier in the game or earlier in your turn development, and you find yourself later in the game, you know, you play 1 or 2 cards, and they synergize so well together that next thing you know, you find yourself drawing 2, 3 cards or bouncing one of your opponent's just more recently developed characters. So, incredibly strong card. It's only 2 ink. If you're not familiar with what the card does, so it says you can banish this item, and if you control a character named Jafar, you draw 2 cards. If you control a Genie, then you bounce a character that costs 4 or less, right? So I found myself in a couple of situations where it would be turn 4, I'm going to play a Genie. Turn 5, I may play one of my developable characters. We'll showcase those here in just a second. And then turn 6, I actually found myself in a couple of situations where Genie's still sitting, and then you're able to play Jafar and Lamp on turn 6 together, and you're able to banish this Lamp, draw 2, develop a character, and bounce one of your opponent's characters all in the same turn. That's tempo at its finest, in my opinion. So, excellent stuff there all around. My tech 4-drop, right? My tech 4-drop, and the reason why I was so adamant about Tipo being at 4 was because I decided to play the Elephant, guys. All right, so the Elephant, I love this card. 3/7 body. It's on a 4 ink, and it just has the normal MIM bounce requirements. So This card additionally, and what I really like about it, is it has the damage shuffle effect, to where at the start of your turn you may move 2 damage counters, or up to 2 damage counters, from this character to chosen opposing character. This card was phenomenal for me over the course of the weekend, and I'll explain my matchups here just in a moment, but this card worked incredibly well, just all throughout the day. It showed consistency. Being able to put a Tipo back in a hand to use it as additional ink is great resource management. And also it just being flexible to bounce back a lot of your other characters as well. And so because of that bounceability, I did make sure that I played the deck a little bit weird. I played the deck to be more based around tools. So 1 snake, 1 fox, and 2 crab. All right, so the crabs, obviously, they interact very well with all of the 1-drops, and then both of these, I was already super tight on space. I didn't think I was going to play them in the first place, but I knew that I wanted to play them in some capacity. They're just too good. So I ended up deciding or settling on just the 1-in-1 package. And the reason being is because I wanted just to have some type of late game bounce utilization to get some more value out of some of these high value cards. And of course, we all know the most high value one of them all that we really want to bounce is going to be the Hades. So just to speak on some of these real quick, this may be a little bit of an odd number on this overall package. So I did end up playing the 1 Baymax. This card was phenomenal overall. I would say it probably won me one, if not possibly. I know for a fact it won me one, if not possibly 2 games solely by itself. This card's incredibly strong, especially into the Amber Steel matchup. They have a hell of a time getting rid of it, and it just continues questing on them and healing up your board. Excellent card all around. The Elsas, nothing needs to be said about those. The bells synergize so well with the deck. I saw a couple of lists that have shied away from this. That's ridiculous. This card was absolutely incredible for the entire time of the tournament. And then 2 Hades. I could kick myself for not playing another one, but at the same time, I have found myself at situations I know earlier in this lovely game of Lorcana where I was drawing, maybe wanting to play 4 of this in a deck and always finding myself breaking on it. So I do know that we're in different times now, and just to speak on some of those matchups kind of briefly. I played against a first round Amber Steel. It was the more character heavy variant, super aggro, your old school Lilo, 1-drop, 2-drop Piglet, etc. And the elephant was such a problem for that deck. It almost single-handedly won me that entire matchup by itself. Round 2, I ended up playing against Blurple. I played against the list that's a little bit more heavy. So I say that as in Gaston's and the 4 Hades, etc. I think he was playing the heavy evasive package as well. And with that, I didn't know how I was going to fare against that. Like I said, I haven't played this deck realistically at all, but we went into game 3. There's definitely an art to the evasive matchup that you have with that deck. And I found myself in game 3, I was going first, and I knew that I thought personally, my bad, I didn't know. I thought that if I got to the big Jafar first, and I was able to secure it early and start tempoing with and start drop it on turn 5 or shift it on top of the 4-drop, play it on turn 5, I was going to be able to try and get ahead of him or try and get an early jump on him. And as long as I could stick that, there's a good possibility I would be able to keep his evasives off the board to where his only out for this was either going to be Hades or Let It Go. And I was going to make it to where by the time he got to Hades, it was going to be too late essentially, or I had already gotten so far. And so it's exactly what happened in that particular match. Played 3 Finders Keepers in addition to the 3 big Jafars. I didn't want to brick on this card, but they are inkable. So at the end of the day, I figured this card was actually incredible. I thought it was going to be rough playing 5 mana draw 3, but honestly, the way that the deck flows, the high value creature or characters that you put out on board, and where you're always developing and doing tricks with the damage counters, you're perfectly fine to just sit back and draw 3 cards for a turn sometimes. Or later in the game, it's an excellent card when you're sitting on 10 lore, because you're drawing every turn. You're going to ink almost every single turn. Now, to final off the deck, it's just 2 crabs, guys. 2 crabs to grab back all of your items. It's of course going to be your popsicles, your mallets, and your lamps. So the Tamatoa, I could almost see myself playing 5 of that card in this deck. I only had 2 that was available to me for the weekend. So, all right. After playing this, though, the card was incredible. You grab back Croquet Mallet, and you have a Rusher on turn 7, right? So you play this, grab back your Mallet, play the Mallet, banish it, swing for 4. That's absurd right there alone. Also, on top of that, something that was realized a little bit later in the day, you have the Jafar. So let's say you're on 8 ink, right? You play your Jafar, you go Mallet, you banish the Mallet, you can swing in with the Jafar, and now he's exerted the same turn that you played him without you having to shift him. Now, mind you, of course, he does have to survive whatever the battle damage is, or whatever the character he's attacking into. But I did actually end up winning a game because of that. I was at 17 lore or whatever the case may be. I was able to shotgun out a Jafar, and I had Chernabog on the field with like a popsicle in hand or something silly like that, right? But nevertheless, Tamatoa, incredible resource management. This card keeps you going through the game. Grabbing back or playing this card for free. So you just drop your Tamatoa turn 6, turn 7, quest this, play this for free. That's perfectly fine by itself of any standard. Nobody's going to complain about getting to drop this lamp right here for free. So overall, incredible deck. Round 3, I ended up playing against Ambersteel Song. I thought that deck was going to be like the bane of Blurple's existence, because I know traditionally it is. This deck just cannot keep up with the tempo that the songs allow that deck to have, and I do personally believe that Ambersteel Song deck is probably the best deck in the game overall, or at least in the top 2 to 3 conversation. So with that being said, I went into that matchup feeling like I was probably going to have a really rough time, but man, the Elephant once again put in some insane work. I probably had some decent luck in the matchup as well. I know that the individual I was playing against did brick in game 3 whenever we were playing. So, take him how we can get him. We played well all around. So, round 4 ended up playing against another Blurple match. This Blurple, though, was also a little bit more of the high-end detailed one. It did play a handful of 1-drops. I think it just played Diablo and Popsicle. So it did play the Bell package, and his main talking point, that he communicated with me, was that he was playing McDuck. So he went really heavy on the locations, to be able to have a better matchup into red-blue. Completely understandable. He said he did end up having trouble with Ambersteel, though. So at that point, we were both 3-0 going into round 4. He did end up winning that match 2-1. So at that point, I'm X1 going into round 4. I was under the impression, I might get to tie or just go ahead and draw my round 5, and we'll all be in top 8. But I actually ended up getting paired down. So I get paired down against another Blurple deck, and this is 3 Blurples in Swiss, and there was only, out of the 20, I want to say it was 22 people total. Out of 22 people total, there was 4 people playing Blurple. And so the individual I was playing against, he was already X11, and he couldn't draw, so we had to play it out. And come to find out, this guy is playing the exact same deck that I am. He's playing quite literally Jafar Blurple. He wasn't playing the elephant. We were a handful of cards different. I'm sure, hell, he was probably playing ultimately the better list, which we kind of communicated on, but he ended up beating me in that round 5, and it was a really hard fought match. I lost 2-1 in that one. I do believe he won the dice roll in that particular match, for what it's worth, and I can't remember specifically what ended up going down with that match, but very close, very hard fought. I do believe in game 3 it came down to like some very just last second Jafar, or like a couple of Jafar top deck type deal, where I was just looking for 1 or 2 draw cards with my Jafar, or I was looking for a Jafar to be able to play with my other 1 or 2 draw cards. It was one of the two, but I ended up not getting to secure that, so I was really worried at X2 that I wasn't going to make top 8. I started off 3-0. I felt like the deck was incredible, and then I lost 2 Blurple mirrors back to back, right? So I didn't feel good about that at all. Sorry about that, guys. Phone died there real quick. But just to finish off on what we were on, I got into top 8, ended up playing against the same Amber Steel that I played against in Swiss, actually. So I ended up getting to take that match. She was the higher seed on that particular game, so she did get to go first. It was the new Amber Steel song list that's been popularized, or so popularized, and really and truly all it came down to for those particular games, the elephant was incredible. The elephant soaked up a ton of damage, and so did the Baymax. The Baymax isn't easily killable by 1 spell. Or isn't necessarily killable by 1 spell period, unless they just have a huge strength. Same thing with Mim. So both of those cards, I found myself kind of purposefully mulliganing for them. The Jafar, the 05 that gains attack, additionally very strong as well. And then of course, you're always looking in that match to be starting with your Egyptian God card here. So in general, I did end up, after everything was said and done, I did end up winning that match and taking it 2-1. Moved into top 4, ended up playing against Blurple. Ended up playing against Red Blue, I'm sorry. So we did finally get to play against something different. The Red Blue match is, in theory, very difficult. Traditionally, the original Blurple list didn't fare too well against Red Blue, to my understanding. They do have Blurple does have some of the traditional Blurple list did have some solid removal as far as Let It Go or Hades, to be able to compete with things like your Maui Half Sharks or your Big Sisus, but the main reason why this deck can struggle so much against that particular deck is because this deck, Blurple, doesn't really have the greatest of win lines overall. So like, you don't have a ton of high questers in the deck, especially with the older build that was kind of more so popularized. So in my matches, and especially in game 3, I actually ended up almost solely, or I believe it was game 2 actually. Game 2 I almost ended up solely winning just because of Jafar alone. I raced to it. I tried to shotgun it down on turn 5 before they were able to get into Be Prepared. And realistically, Be Prepared is their only out to this card, unless they're playing the item variant and can give their Half Shark Rush. So with Be Prep being the only real answer to Jafar, I knew that I was at least going to be able to secure a turn or 2 off of it if I could do my shift turns appropriately. And since you are ramping in the early game, you really are matching up with what Red Blue is trying to do anyways. So I was on the play, I had the ramp, and I had the Jafar shift line. I was essentially on a shift Jafar by turn 4, and there was nothing that he could do in that particular game. Game 3, he ended up going first, and he just missed out on the ramp a little. I want to say he missed his turn 2 ramp, and I was able to stabilize from that point. The turn 2 ramp is you have to have it. It's absolutely a must-have for Red Blue, especially if you're playing against a tempo deck of any sort. So then we moved into the finals, and Funny enough, the finals ended up being the Jafar mirror again. So out of 4 Blurples that played in this 20 some odd person tournament, there were 3 Blurples that made it to top 4. It was the guy that I played round 3 and the guy that I played round 4 and the guy that I played round 5 of Swiss. So we all collectively did well. None of us know each other prior. We don't really talk to each other or anything like that. So it's just honestly a complete coincidence. Me and the guy who was in the finals, he was playing a slightly different list than this, and I did end up losing to him in the finals. He was on the play because he was the higher seed after he beat me in Swiss. And then I ended up finishing that match out 2-1. So I did take game 2, ended up losing game 3. He had a solid bell start, and then he was able to curve very nicely while being on the play. I did not have the bell start. I did have a decent curve, but it just did not match up. So nevertheless, guys, I had an awesome time. This deck was incredible, and I genuinely think that moving forward, this is probably going to be a relatively popular deck in the higher tiers. I don't think it's a coincidence that me and another individual both got first and second with the exact same deck. I truly believe that this deck is genuinely good, has a lot of tools, has a lot of different ways to win. So overall, guys, thank you for watching. Please make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the deck profile and a little bit of the tournament report. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of this and getting to just do more with the channel overall, guys. So appreciate your time, and thank you, guys. Take care. Lordcana Kingdom.